Being falsely accused of the terrible offence starting with the letter R can ruin more lives than just one. Let's discuss this. Oi, Savaloys, welcome back to Beyond Conviction. For those new to the channel, if you haven't already, please subscribe and you'll be notified of any future content covering subjects such as true crime, the criminal justice system, rehabilitation, and what is new and trending in the news at the moment. So I thought I'd do this video because basically what's been in the news quite recently regarding a couple of celebrities that have faced certain allegations, starting with the letter R, and I just thought maybe it would be a good opportunity to raise awareness, both on the side of those falsely accused and those actual victims, God bless them, who are not believed and who don't get the justice they deserve, which in part is driven by the propensity for people to make false allegations. To start this discussion off, I'd like to firstly show some cases that have come up in the news in recent years. So to start with, I will discuss the case of Stacey Sharples. So 31-year-old Stacey Sharples was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison in March this year after pleading guilty to making false allegations of rape. I'm not allowed to say the other word, just for you guys wondering. So she pleaded guilty to 10 counts of perverting the course of justice in relation to false reports she made against 10 separate men. And an investigation was launched because after the arrests or voluntary attendances of almost all of those men, they started to uncover some holes in her stories. And investigations of this are extremely rare. And I don't want this video to undermine the real tragic victims of offences like this, but it also needs to be made aware to everyone that this actually does go on and how devastating it is. So Stacey Sharples was found to have tripped herself up when she gave statements to the police, and once the police had investigated all these certain lines of inquiry, they kept stumbling across consistently revealed evidence which was contrary to what had been disclosed by Stacey Sharples. And the police did comment and saying that it is our duty to act in the public interest and on evidence and information they uncovered whilst investigating her allegations. It showed a continuous and willful making of false allegations, knowing full well the consequences for each of the men involved. Of some, I actually spent time in custody on remand, which, as you can see on my previous videos, people in custody for those sort of offences, or even accused of those sort of offences, is not fun by any means. So these investigations are very tricky, and real investigations of this nature, i.e. when ladies have become victim of these certain offences, the investigations are very complex, they're very intimate, and even with the best will in the world, sometimes the Crown Prosecution Service can't authorise any charges, because a lot of the time it comes down to one word against the other, which is absolutely hellish for the real victims of crime, but also hellish for those falsely accused. And this person, Stacey, she took advantage of that fact, and 10 men had their lives temporarily put on hold, and some people's names have been blackened, because there is those people out there that do believe there's no smoke without fire, and they effectively got away with it, and Stacey has been a victim of the system, so to speak. So it's not actually over for these men just because she's in prison now. It's a very, very, very complex and controversial issue, this. And I don't want to make any bold claims, but because her case has been tested by the police, has been tested by the prosecution, it's been tested by a court of law, and she has been found guilty, which to me says she falsely accused these 10 men of an offence like this, which is disgraceful. So she deserves custody for that. But what I want to ask you is 4.5 years, do you think that's justified considering the amount of allegations she made and the fact that 10 men had their lives pretty much ruined, maybe temporarily, maybe forever? Do you think 4.5 years is enough, of which she'll do, 2 year, 3 months? She'll be out very soon. Do you think that's justified? Just let me know in the comments. Another case which I think yous watching might have heard of is the case of Eleanor Williams from Barrow. So Eleanor Williams, a woman who falsely claimed she was raped by multiple men and trafficked by an Asian grooming gang. She was jailed in 2023 for 8.5 years. These allegations that she made were so in-depth and had such an effect on the community that she lived. They sparked protests because the photos that she was putting on social media of her so-called injuries that she said were from this Asian grooming gang sparked major protests in Barrow, to such point of which those men of Asian descent were being targeted. They were being called nonce. They were being accused of things that they wouldn't even dream of doing. And it caused an absolute shit show in that town. And to such point as Eleanor's mother, she put out a GoFundMe page for support for her daughter and raked in quite a lot of money. I don't know the figure. And as these allegations were proven to be lies, she's been made to give that money back to those who donated it. So it's had an effect on not just those she's accused, not just the local community, but her own family as well. It's like the domino effect. Like my title of my video, one allegation can ruin a life, but she made multiple and very in-depth and almost very believable allegations. So one of her victims was wanting to be named, and he's called Jordan Trengrove, and he spent 73 days in prison on remand, and he was sharing a cell with a convicted sex offender, which is not a surprise because when he's gone in on remand for this sort of allegation, he's going to be on the numbers, he's going to be on the VP wing. So he more than likely is going to share a cell with somebody who's been actually convicted of that offence. As you can imagine, would you like to, especially when you know you haven't done anything wrong, you're already in prison, but would you like to rub more salt in the wounds and share a cell with a person who's actually done this sort of thing? I couldn't imagine anything worse, to be quite honest with you. But anyways, just to go into the case a little bit, the victim, Jordan Trengrove, and Eleanor Williams, they actually went on a night out together in 2019, and she was taken home by Jordan after becoming really drunk. However, Eleanor later alleged that Jordan had assaulted her that night, and then on 2 more occasions claiming he attacked her and threatened to harm her with a knife. And these sort of allegations, the court heard that the word rapist was spray painted across his house, because as you can imagine, the local community were furious by it, as any local community would be. I mean, I certainly would be if I had someone who I thought was capable of doing them sort of offences living in my street. I wouldn't be having it at all. And another victim as well, a gentleman called Mohammed Ramzan, who owns an ice cream van business in Barrow. Williams claimed that she worked for him, and he was accused of grooming her from the age of 12 and putting her to work in brothels in Amsterdam. And he said he had received countless death threats on social media because of this, to such point as he had to shut down his ice cream business, which had an effect on his family's income. He had to remortgage his house and get into more debt just to keep going. He had a few shops as well, which he had to close because of these allegations. And the fact now that Barrow was like a ticking time bomb, because they were all under the impression that they had a major Asian grooming gang problem in the town, all because of what Eleanor Williams had said. However, when the police made inquiries into the allegations made by Eleanor, they found that she travelled to a seaside town alone. I think it was in Blackpool, and stayed in a hotel, where she bought a pot noodle from a nearby shop and then stayed in her room watching YouTube. However, she said that she was under attack, so to speak, during this time, so the CCTV proved her allegations to be actually a load of rubbish. So, but the judge had some choice words to say about Eleanor. So the judge, Recorder of Preston, Judge Robert Altham, said that Williams had experienced difficulties since childhood and had a history of self-harm, as a lot of people do, but yet they don't go and make these sort of allegations and stories up. But anyway, the judge said that her allegations were of the utmost severity, and it was troubling that there had been no significant sign of remorse and no explanation why the defendant would commit these offences, and she still now has not said anything. She's just been jailed, and that's it. But can you imagine the victims that she accused? Can you actually imagine how they felt? I mean, as a man who's been to prison, I mean, I've seen what happens to people on the VPs, the abuse they get, the abuse. Overnight, the whole main locations are firing abuse at them. Even in the visit hall, which is almost like sacrosanct, they're getting abused in front of the visitors. The guys who work in the kitchens are spitting in the food, peeing in the food. And there's guys who are like HIV positive who are pricking their fingers and dripping blood into their food. It's total hell. So for that young lad, Jordan, who had to spend, over 2 months on remand in prison on their numbers, he must, honestly, I just couldn't even bear a day on the numbers. So God bless him. It's just, this case is absolutely insane. But it did gain some traction though. So, you may have all heard of the EDL founder, Tommy Robinson, where he ran an investigation on this, and he spoke with the likes of John Trengove and Mohammed Ramzan. And Tommy Robinson also found that, because Tommy Robinson visited Barrow, because you know what he's like, if all those of you who know about him, he's on top of the Asian grooming gang stuff. He's always investigating that sort of thing. So he's went to Barrow to investigate it, all on the back of what Eleanor's been saying, where there was no actual problem to be had. And that's when he come across Jordan Trengrove and Mohammed Ramzan. So basically, Tommy Robinson was running around Barrow chasing smoke when there was actually nothing going on. It was just all false allegations from one troubled girl. However, actually, after she was convicted and before she was to be sentenced, she had the cheek to launch an appeal, which was threw out. But everyone has the right to appeal after being convicted. The judge has to allow it. So she's trying to get an appeal put through, and they've just told her fuck off, basically. So yeah, she got 8.5 years for that, which is, a drop in the ocean to what is deserved, in my opinion. She should have got much longer than that. And the whole community of Barrow was up in the air because of what she was saying. And this is where I come to say, it's not just, you need to look beyond the end of your nose when you're making these sort of allegations up. It's not just the people you're accusing, you're affecting. It's their family, their next of kin, their children, their wives, their parents, the wider community, because they think, oh, bloody hell, we've got a problem here with some people going around doing these sort of offences. You put the community on edge, and it goes in papers. It affects even people who own houses in that community. It can affect their chances of selling, because prospective buyers, well, I'm not moving there if that sort of thing's going on. And then again, the main problem this has is it makes those true victims of this sort of abuse, these, God bless them, these brave ladies who actually have survived and have the courage to go to the police and divulge what has actually happened to them and relive what's happened to them by explaining it to try and get justice. Their allegations cannot be not proven, but they don't. A lot of them don't go anywhere. And it doesn't help when people like this are making false allegations of which people actually have been charged and remanded. Would I say it's a big problem in the UK? No. But one case like this is one too many. So that's the Eleanor Williams case. I won't go into any more. There is a few more that I've found, but it is a controversial issue. So I want to put it out there. Those who have, attacked women, especially in ways like this, life in prison, even death penalty, or castrate them, something to ensure that they ain't going to be doing that again. But I think that, based on some research I've done, some more ways of testing, victims and accused perpetrators' evidences, things like lie detectors. I know they're quite complex, and I know that's a controversial suggestion, but lie detectors, lie detectors are actually used in the management of sex offenders. So when police are asking, do you have any urges to commit any sort of offences, they stick them on lie detectors. It can't be used as evidence in like a court, for example, but it can be used to allow the police to determine risk. But I think if there was a technology out there that is able to give a lie detector to anyone, regardless if you got certain medical issues, regardless if you're nervous during it, whatever, should be technologies out there that can allow people to sit lie detectors, which can help the CPS, test the evidence, as in, right, the evidence is this. This lie detector shows that he may have been telling fibs, or she may have been telling fibs. And it makes the case that a little bit more stronger. It may lift that conviction rate up a bit, because the conviction for these sort of offences is really low. It's on the rise, sort of relatively, but it's still really low. There's victims walking the streets, going to work, trying to live their lives, and have not got justice. More victims have not got justice than those who have got justice. It should be the other way around. But certainly, people who make false allegations, they should have the book thrown at them proper, because you are calling into disrepute real victims of these sort of offences, which is not on. But yeah, that was sort of my take on what happens when you make false allegations. Absolutely terrible. But what I want to know from you guys is, A, should those who make false allegations get much longer prison sentences? Some people said they should get their tongue snipped. But I'm not about sort of that barbaric sort of stuff. B, should those who make false allegations be made to serve sentences equivalent of the allegation that they're putting onto the men in this case? I.e., if you get a 10 stretch for an R charge, if you make a false allegation, you should get a 10 stretch too. That's an argument I've heard. And another point, a very important point. Should those accused of this sort of offence, where the community reaction is going to be very, very strong, and it can, obviously, these sort of offences can affect people's work, can affect people's home lives, etc. Should the accused remain nameless, i.e. anonymous, until they are convicted? Because what that does, that gives people protection. Because if you were accused of an offence tomorrow and you know you didn't do it, and you know you're going to be found not guilty, still your windows are going to get put in. Your job, they may tell you to fuck off home until it's sorted out. Your kids may get bullied at school because these sort of word gets about. If you're self-employed, your business is going to drop. This is sort of things that have an effect, So should those accused of these sort of offences be anonymous until convicted? I have had this sort of debate with, my wife and my odd mate, And they say, yeah, but for those who have been accused, if put their names out there, may make more victims come forward. Agreed, absolutely, absolutely. But for those who haven't had any previous victims, for those who haven't actually done anything, shouldn't their name remain anonymous until convicted? I.e., if people have previous victims who have not yet come forward, but they will when they see that someone has actually been brave enough to get them convicted, should people remain anonymous until convicted? Because you are effectively innocent until proven guilty. That's the way we run in the UK. So they're the questions I want you to ask yourselves. Should be longer sentences? Should lie detectors be involved? And also, should those accused remain anonymous until convicted? Those are the questions I want you to ask yourselves. Put your responses in the comments below. I do like fair debate. I know it's a controversial topic, but please keep the comments respectful. Please be mindful that some people may have directly or indirectly experienced or observed such offences. So show respect. I know it can be gender specific, the way people perceive this sort of thing. Keep the comments respectful. Keep them educated. Keep them factual. And we'll see where we end up. Like I say, I want this channel to be the hub for changes of opinion, for the hub for the ability to have sensible, not nice debate, but sensible, educated debate without being persecuted, without people's jobs and reputations coming under threat. You know, this is where I want people to be able to feel safe to come and debate about certain topics. And that's what I want to be known for. I'm not interested in making money off YouTube, because you don't make money off YouTube. I'm not making anything. I just want people to feel safe and be able to have debate and find out certain things that they may not have known. That's what this channel's for, Beyond Conviction. Come get educated, come debate. That's what this channel is there for. So yeah, thank you for listening. And if you have any comments, like I say, get them in. And if you're interested in true crime, rehabilitation, sort of what's in the news currently, anything that ignites a flame in you regarding the criminal justice system in the UK as it is, subscribe. You'll be filled with plenty of content. And yeah, you can come debate on my channel. Thank you guys. Peace and love.